Well, now, has it ever intrigued you? Like, why is poverty in Africa so synonymous? Like, if you go outside the continent of Africa and ask somebody, see, like randomly, just go to the streets of Norway and pick somebody randomly, be like, hey, guess what? Which is the poorest continent? They'd be like, Africa or something of sort. Why is it so synonymous that poverty in Africa, it's so like twins? And it's kind of funny that the same continent happen to be the richest in terms of the resources and what have you. We have the youngest generation on earth. Okay, fine. Now, have you ever asked yourself those kind of questions? Guess what? I've actually done my own analysis and statistics, and I base what? I think I'm the best person to talk about why we have poverty in Africa. You know why? Because I live in the continent of Africa. So I have seen. And you know what? If you actually zoom in into the unit of the families in any African family, and then you take that information and you pick any, for example, if you come to any given village in Kenya, you zoom in into an average village in Kenya, you take that family, how they behave, their things, and then you go out to another country. Let's say you go to Zimbabwe, you go to Nigeria, you go to Malawi, you go to whichever the country randomly. You zoom in again to another average village there. You're gonna see they share kind of common things. And I'm like, guess what? This might be the video that I've been waiting for some guys. What exactly can we do so we get ourselves out of that kind of a thing? And I'm gonna share the very first thing that I've actually realized that is actually deters the continent of Africa to poverty is one, called culture. There's some of the culture that we can call them retrogressive cultural practices. This one I know may sound controversial, but the point is, what are these some of the cultural practices that are a bit controversial that can actually deter people from the progress, right? Because I know most of the people are the first one to blame the leaders, but there is one thing I will tell you. There is one thing I'll repeat and I will tell you, and I want you to listen to this video with an open mind. Before you open your mouth and blame your leaders, remember one thing, leaders are actually a reflection of how the society it is. If your leader is corrupt, it simply means even if you were to go down the drain, you're going to find corrupt people. And guess what? This is it. And this is the hypocrisy that we have. When the corruption or that corruption is not favoring you, it is a corruption. But when it favors you, it is a connection. There's the reality. So maybe probably people are bitter because it's not benefiting you. That's why you're calling it corruption. Few people are benefiting out of it. And if you were among the few people, because I've seen some people whom I used to quote unquote be like my friends, rising into power. The moment they rise into power, they start stealing, they are corrupt and what have you. And the people who surrounds them, you'll never hear them talking about the corruption. They were the same people who are complaining. And this is why you find people pick a random individual, based on how you are known, and then they make you a leader. You're just simply a reflection of how that society is. So what I'm saying about the cultural practices, there are some of the cultural practices that are a bit retrogressive. For example, saying this tribe is more powerful than the other, this community is powerful than the other, this clan is powerful more than the other. When people are thinking, you know what, it's kind of funny. People say that African people are hated by the rest of the races. Let's say maybe that's true. But the point is this, if you are hated, then we still then hate each other. For example, if you come to Kenya, you find some communities tend to think like you are better than the other. And the other thing, you find the guys who complain about, hey, guess what? No, listen. Some cultural practices about the tribalism and what have you. Even when we do the elections, go to any random country in Africa, they do the elections based on who is ruling. And you tend to think like, hey, guess what? Because I'm an X tribe, then if I have an X girl person or a person comes from my X tribe, then I'm likely to benefit. And you do not. That guy does not even think about the tribe perspective. They think about the guys whom's around. And it's quite funny, when you go up on the level, down below here, the guys who are from different tribes, they hate each other. But the guys who are on the top here, they be like, guess what? We don't hate each other. Guess what? You're from this tribe of tribe. We are benefiting. It is what it is. I don't know why they should just shake hands and then we believe that that country is actually at peace. Then nobody fights. It's kind of funny. So one thing I've realized is about the cultural practices. Another thing, there's some of the cultural practices that are actually retrogressive. There is a client who called me. The guy had a debt of 32,000, and I want you to listen to this. The guy had a debt of 32,000. And the guy was actually, no, the guy had a debt of 84,000, 84,000. The guy was on a salary of 32,000 and he was actually straining because this is a salary that you need to eat, drink and do all kind of things. Then this guy was actually called me and asked me, he actually paid me. The guy was like, Joseph, how can I get myself out of this debt? And I was like, okay, fine. We did all the mathematics. We realized the guy can only survive to save only 6,000 per month. That is actually channeling this cash. And he was like, I want to get out of this debt as fast as I can. Then I was like, okay, fine. Do you have maybe a car? Do you have like a property that you can sell? Do you have something? And I was like, the guy told me, yeah, the only thing that I own, can you listen to this? I own 40 flock, is it flock of sheep or whatever? Okay, many sheep. How do we call them? Many sheep. And then he had like, this was 25 cattle. 25 cattle. And I was like, yo, you have a lot. I mean, you only need to sell like one calf, one cow. You are done. You are out of debt. You know what the guy told me? No, I cannot sell because in my community we don't sell. We don't believe that. Yo, I'm telling you, my brain shut. I was like, you own 25 cattle, you have 40 sheep, you cannot even take like one cow, maybe probably with like 2 sheep, you get yourself out of debt. The guy told me, yeah, I cannot do that. And I was like, why? Okay, my father cannot allow me. They're my culture. And I was like, yo, you know what, bro? I don't think I have any other portion. Because my brain, like, I shut. I didn't have anything that I can tell this guy. Because I was so furious. Why wouldn't you do this? Yo, wow. I think, I don't know. But for me, that one, I view it as retrogressive. I know you might be like, okay, it's culture, it's fun. But it's fun, but you're not enjoying, you're struggling. Then I think it's something that you should shake it off and try a different thing, as far as the growth is concerned. Anyway, that's point number one. Let's go to the point number, it's you to judge. Point number two, the thing that I realized the reason why you find Africa is quite poor is something called victim mentality. It's called the victim mentality. Victim mentality, this kind of a mentality, you're like, somebody owes you something. I don't know why if you pick randomly any African country, you ask them, why are we poor? You know what? We were colonized. A lot of our resources were stolen and they were used to build America, were used to build Italy, were used to build Europe and what have you. Yeah, that might be true. And I do not fight that. It's true. It was stolen. It was taken from the continent of Africa. But it is still there. But we are still fighting. And you ask yourself, oh, yes, it was stolen, but we are still fighting. And then you ask them, then why are we still fighting? You know what? They still have the inroads in our countries. But if you know that, then why can't you get yourself out of that? You're actually trying to show that you cannot be able to do the thing. You're having that victim. Okay, fine. Then, okay, now you're telling me, yeah, it was stolen, but we still have variety. For example, if you go to, I don't want to mention the countries here, but if you ask yourself, yeah, it was stolen, okay, but we still have some. But you are still fighting. And when are you fighting? Then you say like, okay, we are fighting because those guys from outside there, they're the ones that are making us to fight. And if you know that, then why would you accept that? Why can't you then go ahead and sort of prevent that to happen? Why can't we go on the negotiation table and try to reorganize ourselves? We cannot be respected if we don't respect ourselves. You cannot negotiate for a desire. If you are hated, you cannot sit be like, you know what, we need you to love us, we need you to Listen, this world is a competition. It is a stiff competition. And if you have a little bit of a slumber, things are gone. So you need to be an individual who is so much smart. And you know what? I know you be like, it is not because of us, it is because of a leader. Even if you give you an opportunity, you still behave the same. Just like I've told you, if we stop this victim, and by the way, I can add on this what we call the blame game. The blame game. You yourself at an individual level, you are not responsible of your life. Why? Because of the victim mentality. You tend to believe like it cannot happen, I cannot do it. And when again you have this victim mentality, not believing in yourself. Most of the Africans not be, and then that point, do you know what? I can generate like 1,000,000 points on this point. We have what we call the reserved demeanor. The reserved demeanor. There's some of the demeanor that we have in life that is so disgusting. For example, I'm going to give you a very simple example. You are somewhere. Let's say you are seeking for a banking services. And let's say you are seated there. The Africans, they have like emaciated kind of a feeling. So you are seated there. Maybe you're being served by your fellow African. And then maybe say an Indian shows up. And they're like, hey, the Indian shows up and like everybody is seated. I can see the teller does not have anybody and what have you. The Indian guy will be like, is anybody on the line? Should I go and stop? The guy has that. It's not even their country, but they have that aura, confidence. You exude the confidence. But the guy comes in, they're like, unless they are called, they're like, who is next? Are you next? Are you show up. This is your country. Big confidence. Hey, you know what? No, you are right. You know what? Just work on that confidence. Just it is good to have that reserved demeanor, but should not press you down to a point whereby you cannot even speak about your rights. You're supposed to be an individual who have the confidence. You can communicate. You can express yourself. You can talk. You know, you don't act on the victim mentality. For God's sake, racism is there on earth. For those who believe, the point is, there are people who they experience it, but does not affect them. Be an individual who you are out there and you are like, guess what? We come from the continent of Africa, but it is true we are the poorest. Probably we are not like to something also, but I'm gonna try the best that I can. I start by changing myself. Before I tell them to respect, love me, and what have you, I change myself, I change my perspective, I change how I perceive my things, then I can be able to move to the next level. Now, the other problem that we usually have, most of the Africans usually have, is something called imported solution. Imported solution. All right, imported solution. And this is why you find that most of them, they try the best that they can. By the way, I usually find some people getting, let's say, an American visa or maybe an American passport or whichever the passport. The guy can celebrate on the internet, I acquired this, oh my goodness, I've made in life and all those kind of things. You're like, oh my goodness, this is neo-colonialism. It is affecting these guys. And the thing is this, when you bring what we call the imported solution to the African problem, it cannot work. It's like importing, what do we call them? The Nissan, spare parts, and you try to fix them in a Toyota. It doesn't work. And if it will work, it will work for a very short period of time. Let's take a very simple case scenario of football. I'm not so much fanatic of football, but I know one or two. Say, this time round we bring a French coach. The guy coaches according to the French football. After a few months or a year, the guy is fired. We bring a Briton. After some time, we bring a Spanish. We bring a Brazilian. We bring a... Why can't you just do the thing like, this is how we play the football? Why can't you just believe you guys on yourself and you build yourself to the next level? See, and then the other thing of, hey, you believe like the solution is overseas. For example, when you want to build something like... what do you call, like a subway or something, we have to go out there, import the whole technology. Yeah, sure, we may not have the technology, but the point is, where did those guys go to invent that kind of a technology? Have you ever thought about that? You ask yourself, okay, fine, where did they go? Like, did you have like another planet? Like those young guys of those countries, they went to bank and land and do all those kind of things? Where exactly did they go? See, when you do not have that specific thing, this is why we say the necessity is the mother of invention. How can I exactly? See, we experience a problem. For example, in Africa, we have, or there is a shortage of food. Then you ask yourself, we don't expect anybody to come and solve our food shortage. Even if we call, is it called WFP, the World Food Program or something? I know they may try the best that they can to solve the issue, but the point is, we ought to be doing something for the sake of ourselves. Now we'll be like, okay, this is an African issue. Why do we have food security or food insecurity? Because, hey, we have advanced weather effects, or maybe we have like a place or a land that is not arable. Maybe Israel is a country that does good in this farming. Holland is another country. Why exactly can we exchange expertise and what have you? I'm not saying that we shouldn't learn from each other. We should, because world is a global village. But before to go to a level exporting like everything and truncating and copy pasting, it is good to ask ourselves, how can we solve our issue? How can we solve our problems? How can we do that so that we elevate ourselves to the next level? And then there is this kind of a thing. When we actually sort of then there is kind of fear that we usually put into the kids. You're not supposed to express yourself. You're not supposed to talk like, when I have asked a question, especially the millennials. We millennials, we grew up with this challenge. Maybe the Gen Z is changing, or the kids that the millennials are getting is actually changing. But there is this issue of having the kids who cannot even express themselves. They have that fear, that reserved demeanor, and what have you. So all these kind of things combined here, the victim mentality, having this what we call reserved demeanor, having this imported solution and what have you. And I'm not saying people should not go overseas. People should go overseas. But some people even go overseas and forget about, that's why we find most of the Africans, they get even denied the visa, not because these people hate us. They don't hate us. But the point is, they're like, if we open these doors, if we open our borders, probably we might have an influx of people to a point whereby we may not even serve our people to a diligent levels where we may give them everything. And for God's sake, that can happen to anybody. Every country has the right to actually protect their borders. But at the same time, you're supposed to be somebody of valuable. When you go to that country, you're going to do great things. But they fear that if you You guys go overseas, you meet those guys out there, they tell you, I'm never go back to Africa, I'm not gonna go, those kind of things. You even become a liability to that country. And when you go to that country, you don't follow the rules and regulation of that country. You just want to import everything that you have into that country. You even become a problem. You even become a hard person to be handled and all those kind of things. So when you adjust ourselves, don't have this victim mentality, and you actually grow to a point whereby you can be able to carry yourself to a respectable person. First, it starts with you respecting yourself before it goes to people respecting you. You know what, guys? That is just, but it's like a drop in the ocean. We have a lot of things that we can be able to change. Did I say that leaders don't contribute? No, I did not say that. They do contribute. But I said this, before we blame the leaders, always we ask ourselves as the subjects. The leaders are always the reflection of how the society is. And if you can handle that at the top or at the bottom level, how you handle your finances, how you make a decision, how you actually don't engage in those small and little bribes here and there, that is exactly, we're going to grow ourselves a community, that a responsible community that will be able to take ourselves to the next level and be able to solve the future problems or the challenges that we might have as far as the finances and the growth and the economies and our lifestyle is concerned. Guess what? The expression or the views that I made here is purely what I think that is going out there, and it's an open-ended conversation. You may or may disagree with me on what I have just said there. You just put it on the comment section. I do believe you have a point that you can also, that I can also learn from you. Put it out there and we can be able to learn, just like an iron sharpens another iron. For now, it's a goodbye and see you in the next one.